Alright, so it's been a little while since we've got a developer note from the Marvel Future Fight team, but about 10 minutes ago they released one, so I wanted to share my thoughts with you guys on this thing, because the last time we got one of these, they let us know that we're getting multiple giant boss raids, new world boss legends, and they were going to be improving the rewards for the different difficulties. And although they haven't fully delivered on the promises of the previous dev note, I'm curious to hear what they have to say this time around. So we're going to take a look at it on the forums here and see what they have to say. Now, before we jump in, usually with these dev notes, they give out some free stuff. And as you can see just now, I actually got a magic Odin's Blessings, which is really good. It's less than we got last time. Last time, I believe they gave out an Odin's Blessings and a couple other things. But listen, I'll take this. Double energy attack, let's go. All right, so developer notes on the November update. This is very interesting. I thought this was gonna be like a long-term developer note, but it has more to do with the new CTP of Rage, but let's go. So first of all, we would like to thank all of our agents for enjoying the November update. People are barely enjoying it, I gotta say. Shuri is the highlight, but let's move on. After going over the various opinions that our agents have sent us, we would like to inform our agents about the CTP of Rage effects and the tier 4 skill effects of Black Bolt. So nothing about Hulk. Okay. The mighty and brilliant CTP of Rage Enrage effects. We have noticed that the effects of the Enrage have been hard to feel in difficult game modes such as World Boss and Giant Boss Raid, as the increases critical damage effect of the Enrage does not show the intended performance for enemies with high defense rates. We are planning to make additional improvements so that the intended effects can be applied. We are aiming to make the improvements within November and will deliver details through further notices. This is very good because of the fact that they've buffed the CTP of Rage in Rage effect since the patch notes, and it's still not making any kind of a difference. I kid you not, guys. So when the patch notes was initially announced for the Wakanda Forever update, this is what they intended to give us for a mighty CTP of Rage. Okay, increases critical damage by 80% on a mighty. Now it goes up to 200%. However, I've been talking to a lot of people, and even with them increasing it by 120% on the mighty, they're not even noticing a 1 second difference in their clear speed and the amount of damage they're doing for Giant Boss Raid, World Boss Legend, or Alliance Battle, Extreme or Legend difficulty. It's actually kind of crazy when you go from 80% to 200% to not even notice a 1 second difference. Is madness. And then for the brilliant, they took it a step further. They took it from 1% to 1.2% for the basic damage increase, and then they increased the enrage stat from 130% to 300%, which is madness. They more than doubled it, and people are still not noticing a difference. So that's why they're releasing this dev note here to clarify the fact that they didn't do enough testing. That's basically what they're telling us, right? We didn't test this. We just put some stats here and we were hoping that it was going to be enough to fool people into thinking that we actually tested this thing. However, you know how Marvel Future Fight works. As soon as new stuff gets dropped, content creators start testing it to see if it's better than previous things and if it's even worth investing in, especially when it comes to brilliant CTPs, okay? So this is basically exposing how lazy the dev team is from time to time, because there's no way you could say you tested this and you didn't notice that there was no difference between a mighty CTP of Rage and a regular CTP of Rage. Like, come on. And then to go from a normal CTP of Rage to a brilliant, which sometimes has you sacrificing 100 CTPs for one brilliant because of how abysmal the rates are, for you to not notice is unacceptable. And I want you guys to understand one thing. They're not doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They're looking at the numbers right now and they realize that the adoption rate for the CTP of Rage reforging is not looking good. People are not reforging and people are not going into the shop and spending hundreds of thousands of crystals, or at least a majority of people aren't doing it. The whales at the top that want to stay competitive in ABX and ABL, they're not doing it as much because they're not seeing that big of a return on their investment. They even made it very clear here, right? Listen to what they said. The Marvel Future Fight team is aiming for agents to enjoy various gameplays with various types of CTPs. Accordingly, we are putting a weight on the balance between each CTPs and have gone through careful discussion when adding the CTP of Rage as well. So basically right here, they're implying that they did testing and they're trying to keep some type of balance between the CTPs. Obviously, that has not been the case for the years that the CTPs have been in the game, because there's certain CTPs that's been at the bottom since release, like Patience, Transcendence, Refinement, etc., and they're still at the bottom of the game. So listen, let's not pretend like you're doing this for some type of balance. And keep in mind, this post was made 24 hours before they actually dropped the dev note. So after they realized that dropping this didn't actually make it so that people started adopting the CTP of Rage Reforging, people just doubled down or tripled down and said, you know what? No, not spending no money on it. It's not good enough. Moving on. Improvements on Black Bolt's Tier 4. As we were preparing to release Black Bolt's Tier 4 on the 10.18 patch, we announced that the increased final damage effect has been applied wrongly and found that Hulk, who uses the same effect, has the same issue, and in former agents, Hulk has been fixed through the November update to its intended damage. So basically, what Hulk is right now is what they intended for him to be. That's sad. Anyways, moving on. We have adjusted the performance of Black Bolt's striker skill to show its intended performance considering the increased final damage effect after the issue has been resolved through the November update. We have readjusted Black Bolt to its intended performance. However, as we have noticed that Black Bolt's performance have been decreased for agents with high additional pierce damage increase effects, we're planning to improve Black Bolt's performance. Okay, so basically what they're saying is pierce is affecting final damage increase, right? Because notice what they said here. However, as we have noticed that the performance of Black Bolt have been decreased for agents, specifically agents with high additional pierce damage increase. So it looks like the way how final damage increase works is it takes into consideration the amount of defense the enemy has, and since additional pierce ignores the enemy's defenses, it is making Black Bolt perform worse for people who have 25% pierce as opposed to people who have maybe 10% pierce. This is very interesting. Moving on, we're aiming to make improvements within November as well, together with the improvements for the CTP of Rage. As we end our note, we are sending an item to help our agents. So that was the Otis blessing that you guys saw at the beginning of the video there. Please receive the following item through the dev note pop-ups, which will be shown. Reward Otis blessing chest X1. That's it. So not a big dev note, but a response nonetheless. Basically, they're admitting that we didn't test enough. We didn't do the work. We just made up some random thing, put it on the CTP of Rage, and hope it was gonna be good enough. Because you can't tell me you did any kind of testing for this. And same goes for Black Bolt. It took me literally, I would say 10 minutes to figure out that Black Bolt was performing worse after you guys quote unquote buffed him. And within 5 minutes of people reforging their CTPs of Rage, I had a bunch of people messaging me, telling me that their CTP of Rage is the same, even though it's a mighty or a brilliant. Which is why I didn't even bother reforging any of mine. I was gonna make a video on it, but as you can see, there's no need for me to do that because they've essentially said, we tried to cheat and we got found out. So guys, leave me your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about this?